Sam, that's not how we do it. Let me show you how we take care of the creatures. Let me show you how we take care of the creatures. Go, Rita! Get up! Get up! Get up! Rita! That's how it's done. Yeah! Okay, calm down.
They're targeting a hospital. In this hospital, there are patients who are immobile. They can't even move. Right next to it is a children's ward, a baby's ward.
You attacked every hospital in Gaza. You held an illegal siege on the Al Nasser hospital in Gaza, and your army at gunpoint forced the staff to abandon their patients, including 9 NICU children who were attached to machines that wouldn't even work because you prevented electricity and power from going into that hospital. Those children were left to die on their own. They starved to death. Dogs ate their bodies. When they went back, they found that insects had infested their corpses. And now you want to appeal to the humanity in people. I want to appeal to the humanitarian law that you dismissed when you held illegal sieges across every single hospital in Gaza, forcing thousands of people to die unnecessarily, to starve to death, to bleed to death, to go through surgery without anesthesia because you prevented aid from getting to them. When innocent mothers and children sought refuge inside and outside these hospitals, you bombed them. There are craters outside these hospitals where your bombs have left their mark. There are scorch marks in tents outside hospitals where you burnt men alive. Do you think that you can appeal to the goodness in us? That our humanity will sympathize with you and your people after you celebrated and rejoice in your own superiority for targeting defenseless women, defenseless children, defenseless men. The blood of every Palestinian, Israeli and Iranian is on your shoulders. Fuck your hospitals.
Today, the world inches closer to a boiling point. Not because Iran built a nuclear weapon, but because the very idea of it exposes something far deeper: hypocrisy, fear, and a world order cracking at the seams. But before we ask why Iran still doesn't have nukes, let's look at what happened when it didn't. The humanitarian collapse in Gaza was more than a military event. It became a test of global silence. And those watching, especially in Tehran, saw a message loud and clear. Possession is protection. Power protects itself. And the powerless? They're left to starve. But if nukes are protection, then why hasn't Iran just gotten one?
Ever wondered why China, Russia, or Pakistan can't just hand Iran a nuclear weapon and be done with it? To balance out Israel's arsenal and bring balance to the world, Avatar Lost Airbender style? Here's the explosive truth most people don't know. The surface answer and then the deep answer. We'll start with the surface because it's obvious and it'll be short. The surface answer lies in a 1968 treaty that 191 countries signed called the Nuclear NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty. This isn't just a piece of paper, it's international law. No. I know international law doesn't count for much these days. When you heard me say it, you probably got PTSD-style flashbacks to people complaining at the United Nations that Israel is breaking international law. They've been doing that for 2 years in occupied Palestine with no repercussions, no punishments, no actions taken, right? I feel you. But hear me out, okay? We'll make sense of this together. Under the NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty, nuclear states like China, Russia, the US, UK, and France are legally, at least, prohibited from transferring nuclear weapons to any country that doesn't have nuclear weapons. Period. End of story. Iran signed that treaty as well. Let me say again. Louder for the people in the back. Iran signed the treaty as well. So if anyone ever tries to frame Iran as the unreasonable, violent aggressor that wants the death of all the enemies, ask them if Israel has signed the nuclear NPT. Because they haven't. But Iran has, right? Which means Iran promised never to acquire nuclear weapons. At least officially, right? They promised. Okay, fine. It's better than nothing. While nuclear powers promised never to help Iran get any. Okay? But here's where it gets complicated. And I mean, by complicated, hypocritical. Israel never signed the NPT at all. And maintains what experts call nuclear opacity. Or like an opaque glass or window. You can't see through it, right? It's not clear. They won't confirm or deny having nukes at all. Though it's widely assumed now that they were given the technology, given the material, potentially just donated some. It's estimated now they have 90 nuclear warheads ready to go and given by America. So Iran signs the agreement and has not got nukes, officially at least, okay, fine. While Israel doesn't sign the agreement, does have nukes, but officially can't declare that they have any. What? But no sanctions and condemnation for Israel. No, don't be silly. Sounds fair? No? Welcome to geopolitics. Global South, the BRICS nations, benefit from long-term peace the most. The trajectory of technological advancement, economic growth, and military capability suggest a clear and reliable shift away from a world ruled by the West, with everyone else beneath them, to a multipolar world with several centers of power and prestige balancing each other out by and large. For the Global South, time is on their side. For the West, their time is coming to a close. As the undisputed world leaders, they're not going to be around for much longer if the current trend continues. So China and Russia and Pakistan could actually give Iran a nuke. It would break the NPT treaty, but so what, right? It would risk chaos, maybe even war. Well, that's what, I guess. It might make things more fair, mind you, i.e. Iran now has what Israel has, right? Iran's backers gave them what Israel's backers gave them. It's fair. All's fair, right? But geopolitics isn't about what's fair. It's about what's practical. And it's about what benefits you, right? You're going to be thinking about yourself. And practically, giving Iran a nuke from Iranian allies even would risk the US coming in and flattening as much of Persia, making it a smooth, dusty ground as they could, which likely would lead to Iran knowing that that's coming, going all or nothing, activating all its proxies at max capacity, firing every missile it can from every missile launcher it can, maybe even using nukes that they were given. Even if that didn't happen, because that's a very violent scenario, right? Even if that didn't happen, if Iran is given nukes, the Gulf monarchies and Egypt and Turkey would all say, if Iran has one, I want one, right? More chaos, more instability. And the Global South is a rising bloc. China, Russia, Iran, they all need time to get stronger, to get richer. None of them benefit from a Middle East engulfed by chaos, potentially nukes in the air, and a new Turkey, Egypt, Gulf monarchies, nuclear arms race. Any chaos for developing nations freezes their progress in place, just where it is. Freezes their economies, just where they are. And when frozen, it's the Western powers that come out on top, because their plateauing advanced economies are already half frozen, already rich. They're frozen at the top, already not growing by much anyway. So peace benefits the Global South, and war harms everyone, but harms the West less. So why does nobody give Iran a nuke? Because the Global South, Iran included, wants peace, and giving Iran a nuke gives them parity, yes, but does not guarantee peace, no. That's why you see Iran being more restrained and more passive. That's why Iran looks more reasonable when it speaks than Israel looks, even though Israel's the one being supported by the West, who claim to be supporters of justice and humanitarian law and democracy and all the good values, right? And that's why you see nobody helping Iran publicly, at least, because peace speeds up the move towards a multipolar world. But we aren't quite there yet. So BRICS and co need to be as reserved, as gentle as they possibly can, even in the face of violent aggression. Peace is their mission, even if it means watching hypocritical injustice upon you or upon your allies. Peace even then, to try and pull the world back from the brink of war so that the billions in the Global South may rise and prosper.
This is where the West's moral narrative shatters. Iran signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel didn't. Yet Iran is the threat. It's not about law. It's about leverage. So, when the international system won't protect you, what do average people start saying?
Come on, Iran, get the job done. Keep at it and at it, you know. If you haven't got enough money for the missiles, I'm willing to chip in a bit. I've got a few quids going spare. I don't mind helping you. Come on, get the job done. Keep at it. Keep at it. Flatten it. You know what I'm talking about. Flatten it, like Gaza was flattened. You get that job done. You get it done, kidder. Sort the buggers out. Teach them a bloody lesson. Yeah, I'm with you, Iran. You sort them out.
30,000 Israelis have fled to the neighboring country of Cyprus by boat or by yacht over the past 3 days. And they have the audacity over the past 600 days to make all these jokes, these cowardice jokes about the strength of the Gazan people. They couldn't last 3 days. And they got bunkers too. And they got a full air defense system with a few Iranian missiles. They couldn't last 3 days. Okay. Now, the Israeli tourism minister just came out and said, hey, look, we're not going to allow any Israelis to leave the country. Tourists that were here, you can leave and hopefully you get out soon if you want to leave. But Israeli citizens, you're not going to be leaving. Okay. They shut down Ben Gurion Airport. They shut down the airlines. Only some evac flights are going on right now. So this is really not a great situation for all of them. Which is incredible because, they said, this is our land. This has always been our land. But as soon as a few Iranian missiles start flying, they say, going to Cyprus.
I cannot stop thinking about this, but does anyone else remember just a few months ago in March when Iran's own state mining company announced that they had found the largest reserve of natural resources in the world? Which would of course be worth trillions of dollars. Yeah, after a decade of geological exploration, Iran found over 7,000 tons of a very rare and very expensive metal-like material with major military and advancement technological uses called antimony, which is a brittle silver-looking metalloid that exhibits both metal and non-metal properties that has the ability to strengthen and harden other metals, particularly lead. It's used in a whole range of products like match heads, batteries, bullets, ceramics, and even some medications that treat parasitic infections. It's used in night vision goggles and infrared sensors, and it's an essential ingredient in flame retardants and advanced electronic systems. This is a very rare and valuable mineral with wide applications, and according to Iran's own March report, they've discovered about 10% of the world's global supply, meaning that Iran has a huge, I'm talking huge, amount of this antimony. And wasn't it just 2 years ago that Iran announced that they had found large lithium deposits as well, which is used in cell phones and electric vehicles and is also worth a ton of money? And while we're on this topic, I think it's worth mentioning that the price of these materials is just going to continue to skyrocket significantly with the advancements in AI, military, and industrial technology. And here we are. I can't be the only one that finds it just a little bit coincidental that only 3 months after Iran announced that they had discovered the largest reserves of this super rare and super valuable mineral called antimony, Israel and the United States are now repeating their same tried and true line about weapons of mass destruction. All while Israel continues to wipe hundreds of thousands of people off of this planet, using bombs so strong and so advanced that they create their own earthquakes. And here's just one more thing to think about. There are an estimated 750 US military bases in at least 80 countries around the world. I went and looked at how many of those countries are rich in raw materials and natural resources. Maybe you should too.
That voice isn't military. It's not political. It's desperation turning into rage. And it's spreading, especially when America's own intelligence community is being ignored.
Yo, wait, did the President of the United States just publicly call his own spy chief a liar? Either a liar or incompetent, and people aren't sure which is worse. You appointed a head of intelligence, but you don't believe them when they give you their intelligence. Because that's exactly what happened this week, and it could literally change the course of Middle Eastern history. Picture this. You're the American Director of National Intelligence. You tell Congress that Iran is not building nuclear weapons, according to your intelligence evidence. And then your own boss goes on live TV and says, I don't care what she says, she's wrong. This isn't a Netflix drama, by the way. This is real life geopolitics unfolding before our very eyes. So here's what's actually happening. Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's intelligence chief, testified in March that according to the US intelligence agencies and the evidence they have, Iran suspended its nuclear weapons program back in 2003 and hasn't restarted it, along with its official Iranian position at a state level that we don't want nukes, we don't have nukes, we're not pursuing nukes. The assessment by American intelligence says even if Iran wanted to build a bomb, it would take them 3 years to create a deliverable warhead. But Trump, he's saying Iran is, quote, very close to having a nuclear weapon, and his intelligence community is flat out wrong. Source, trust me, bro, or trust Iran, bro. This is what happens when you are bought and paid for by AIPAC, the Israel lobby in America. Who do you believe? The US intelligence agencies with decades of experience, and they don't benefit from lying here. They could be lying, of course, or publicly, but they don't benefit from lying here because it's putting them in direct opposition with the American head of state. So they aren't towing a line here. So do you believe them? Or the president who's aligned with the Israeli claims? Or Iran, who insists they're peaceful? Or international inspectors who say things are murky? I'm not sure. This is my take. Trump actually agrees with his intelligence that Iran hasn't ramped up development of nukes, but he publicly states otherwise. He takes the other side, basically, publicly, because in the shadows, behind the scenes, his AIPAC handlers are watching very closely. He's bought and paid for, guys. He campaigned and he got hundreds of millions in donations from Zionists and the Israel lobby. So if he deviates too far from what they want, they might get furious and roll up their, metaphoric sleeves, as it were.
But the entire Iranian regime is going to be history. The Iranian nuclear program is going to be destroyed. And anyone who gets in the way, it doesn't matter where they are, even if they are politicians in the West, they are going to fall. Because we cannot afford letting any Islamic entity, and I said this previously, and I mean what I say, and you need to take this very seriously.
Did you hear what he just said? He threatened politicians in the West that if they don't agree with Israel's war against Iran, that they're going to fall. And remember, he's an Israeli agent. Are you saying Israel will murder politicians in the West or get rid of them politically through bribery or whatever else? What do you mean the politicians in the West will fall if they don't agree to back Israel's war against Iran?
Yeah, we will not vote for them anymore.
Oh, well, you don't vote for them now. You're not in our country. What do you mean the politicians will fall?
We live in democracy, and we have the right to bring them up and to bring them down. Those who agree with Ayatollah, we don't want them in office. And all the sympathizers with terrorists like yourself, we don't want them even to be in our country.
Who is we, and how are you bringing down politicians in the West if they dare to defy Israel? Tell me how you're bringing them down.
I already answered you that.
Are you going to murder them, or are you going to bribe them? Or are you going to bribe someone else? Who are you going to do? So let me...
He has to balance appeasing them with his own goals, which actually go against them. Trump's true goal, making America great again. And he knows that cannot be achieved with another Middle Eastern war where you support Israel. I'm saying my analytical conclusion is that Trump and America, by and large, do not want a war, but must look like they are ready to go to war so that Israel is appeased, so they're kept at bay.
Imagine the President of the United States calling his own spy chief wrong, not in private, but on live television. Not because the intelligence was flawed, but because the politics demanded a different story. Iran says it isn't building nukes. U.S. intelligence agrees. Israel says otherwise. Guess who gets believed?
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago.
It's twisted, but from what we have gathered so far, nukes make violence less likely, not more. Because if everyone has the power to destroy each other, no one pulls the trigger. That's what kept the Cold War cold. And maybe that's what the Middle East is missing. But peace was within reach once, and then sabotage.
If Iran had nuclear weapons, the Middle East would probably be a much safer place, and that's not a controversial opinion, that's just political science. Like, there is a reason why a bunch of countries have nuclear weapons, countries that hate each other, yet we have not had nuclear war. The reason that nuclear war hasn't happened and is very unlikely to ever happen is because of something called mutually assured destruction, or MAD, and it's exactly what it sounds like. The idea that nuclear war is ultimately suicidal. Because if you drop a nuclear weapon on me and I drop a nuclear weapon on you, we both just destroy each other. Like, there is no winner. We both just cease to exist. Nuclear weapons are not about the actual weapon, they're a method of deterrence, so giving other countries a reason not to go to war with you. A great example is the USA and Russia, who hate each other, both have nuclear weapons, but won't actually go to war with each other, or India and Pakistan, also both hate each other, also both have nuclear weapons, but won't ever go to a serious war with each other for that reason. This is why a lot of political scientists argue that nuclear weapons can actually make some regions a lot safer. Like, imagine if India had nuclear weapons, but Pakistan didn't. That would be a big problem for Pakistan. Anyway, back to the girls that are fighting. This week, Israel bombed Iran, claiming, as it has for the last 30 years, that Iran is 1 minute away from developing a nuclear weapon. What's interesting about Israel claiming that it has an issue with Iran developing nuclear weapons is that in 2015, the United States negotiated a pretty groundbreaking treaty with Iran for Iran not to develop any nuclear weapons in exchange for having sanctions lifted. And this treaty was a big deal, not only because it was a win for the United States, but because it got very rare, widespread support from the international community, including other nuclear powers like Russia and China. Every country with nuclear weapons loved this treaty, except Israel. Israel was massively opposed to this deal. Strange, right? Because they claimed that if Iran gets nuclear weapons, they'll drop a nuke on Israel, therefore posing a threat to the very existence of Israel. Which, by the way, is fear-mongering nonsense on the part of the United States and Israel just to manufacture your consent, because there are countries with nuclear weapons like North Korea with insane leaders like Kim Jong-un who are not going to drop nuclear weapons on South Korea, for example. This is where I'm like, watch that political rhetoric you're seeing in the media, because Iran doesn't pose an existential threat to Israel. It does, however, pose the biggest strategic threat to Israel's ambitions in the region. Fast forward to Trump's first term, when he came into office and basically wanted to undo anything good or bad that Obama did to show that he can like piss on a tree and mark his territory. So in 2018, Trump withdrew from this treaty, even though it was literally working perfectly as it should. Iran was under strict supervision by the International Atomic Energy Agency, sanctions were lifted, everyone was happy. Then a few weeks ago, Trump tells the entire world that he wants to renegotiate the nuclear deal with Iran, and that was supposed to happen this weekend, but we now know that was a ploy to basically soften Iran for them not to expect the Israeli attacks. Which is why the US claiming that they had nothing to do with Israel bombing Iran is a fat lie that they tell to uphold this PR story that Trump is anti-war, when in reality he approved these bombings. He said so himself.
Trump didn't just leave the deal. He baited Iran into letting its guard down, just in time for Israeli airstrikes. Then pretended to be uninvolved. That's not diplomacy. That's entrapment. So, is it any surprise that some are preparing for the worst?
5 steps to surviving a nuclear blast during World War III. Yes, it's possible. That bright flash, don't look at it. It will cause instant blindness. I said don't look at it. What I'm about to tell you is true for 300 to 800 kiloton nukes, the typical yield on modern ICBM missiles. My name's Derek. I'm a professional prepper. Follow for more end-of-the-world wisdom.
Survival tips for a nuclear blast. Not fiction anymore, but trending content. That tells you everything about where public confidence is. And yet amid this chaos, some still believe Iran is the irrational actor. Let's reset. Who has nukes? Who signed the treaties? Who ignored them?
So Iran signs the agreement and has not got nukes, officially at least, okay fine. While Israel doesn't sign the agreement, does have nukes, but officially can't declare that they have any. But no sanctions and condemnation for Israel. No, don't be silly. Sounds fair? No? Welcome to geopolitics.
This is the contradiction we're supposed to ignore. Israel has nukes, won't confirm or deny it. Iran doesn't, but is demonized for maybe wanting one. The real danger isn't who has weapons. It's who gets to decide who's allowed to have them. So when America speaks of fairness, whose fairness? It's restraint, not weakness, that defines the global South today. BRICS nations are playing the long game because war would freeze their eyes. Peace isn't charity, it's strategy. Iran holds back not because it's powerless, but because it's patient. But even patience has limits. So here we are. Israel wants war. Iran doesn't. America is pretending to be neutral while acting like it's not. This isn't diplomacy. It's performance. A nuclear-armed performance where every act risks catastrophe. And yet, the real fear isn't that Iran might bomb Israel. The real fear is that a nuclear Iran can't be bullied anymore. Because deterrence is the ultimate equalizer, and equality is the last thing an empire wants. So what does a collapsing world order look like? AIPAC. Sanctions. Deals sabotaged. Treaties ignored. Civilians starved. And still, the question they fear most is simple. What if Iran really is playing by the rules? This isn't about nukes. It's about narrative control, who gets to be the villain, who gets to be the victim, and who makes that call. We make ours.
Subscribe.
Because this time, the full story deserves a full hearing.